that we've recently had at Lumina. Yeah. So as some of you may be aware, Lumina is a tool that came into India only about a year back. But I think in the last 1 year, the amount of learning and the number of client experiences we've had and the richness of those experiences have been absolutely wonderful. So I'm specifically going to talk about an experience that we've had with one of the largest global chemical organizations, where we worked with, these 5 different verticals. And we started this interaction with the sales head of the South Asia team. And we did not know that we were actually going to deploy Lumina as a tool with them. Yeah. We started off the conversation by discussing a business problem that this particular gentleman was facing. And like most leaders, he described the business problem by saying, we are large, we are huge, we are doing very well in our industry. But the problem is that we seem to be stuck in a comfort zone. Yeah? May I request everyone to be on mute, please? Is that something that I can request everyone to do? Okay, I've done that. I've just muted people. Thank you. Right. So like I was saying, this is a large, in fact, one of the largest global chemical companies in the world, has been around for decades, doing very well with, as far as their existing clients is concerned. But the problem that the South Asia head spoke to us about was, he said, we seem to be stuck in a comfort zone. We are looking to accelerate our business. And I do know that my people are very capable when it comes to functional and technical skills. In fact, they have huge years of experience behind them. But when it comes to pushing the pedal, I see that they hold themselves back. Yeah. And I remember the first time I spoke to this leader, he articulated very wonderfully the gaps that he had in the sales funnel. So he very nicely articulated the fact that, we engage very well with our customers. We do try and understand their needs very well. We are quick to design a solution, deliver it to them. But we don't really innovate. We don't really suggest any new ideas. In fact, at times, we kind of become passive after having given a proposal. We expect the other party to close the deal. And the next question that I had for him is, what are these observations based on? And is it a common observation for your entire sales team? And he said, I don't really have, solid evidence behind it. And I don't really know why that happens, because I've seen these leaders evolve over years. Each of them is unique. Each of them brings a certain amount of experience and expertise to the entire sales process. But I'm unable to put my finger on why exactly do they not really step up. Yeah. And I know that it's nothing to do with the sales process. The sales process in our organization is very well laid out. It's very well supported. It's very well understood. So I'm looking for you to come in as an expert and tell me, what is it that I can do at an individual level with each one of them to ensure that we are supporting them beyond the sales process so that they can start delivering results. So that was the very first conversation that I had with them. And immediately, Rahul and I got on a call and we started talking about, is there something beyond the sales process, probably something related to personality that is at play here. So on that note, Rahul, and I'm going to keep coming back to this particular example, this particular client that we are still actually engaged with. But on that note, Rahul, quick question to you. This very, very interesting space of personality and its interaction with sales. What is it that you have to say about that?
I've got a story to go with that, Preeti. And for those of you, who've been through your sales journeys or work with sales leaders, know that we all carry a certain piece of our personality into the business. And I have to say that sometimes that perspective is rather limited. And I'm going to make a comment and a story around that. When Lumina Sales was being considered for India, due to a certain self-image I carried about my own sales capabilities, in one word, zero, I was hesitating, and I needed the motivation from, and the push and the encouragement from Preeti and Rajiv to take the first step. But the story is not meant to be a funny one. It's about, self-perspective. I started my career, oddly enough, in sales. After graduating from Shriram College years ago, The campus recruitment put me in a product appliance sales opportunity. And in a very simplistic view, from the group of people that were selected, I was given the sales opportunity simply because I came across as socially skilled, which can get misunderstood for being extroverted. So a simple dimension, extroverted must be good for sales, put in there. I was hopeless. And I carried scars which made me believe that I can't sell. Now, those were the old days where life was very deterministic, much like the psychometric tools that we had in those times. Things were black and white. But over time, we've understood we live in a very, very volatile world. And sales, as I understood then, was an episode. It was a one-off. You go, you sell more at a higher price, and you collect your money on time. And today, over time, I've learned that salespeople come in all styles, colors, and flavors. You don't need the extroverted person to sell a high-end luxury product, because that kind of customer is different. And research proves that extroversion does not guarantee sales alone. So, Preeti, let's talk a little bit about getting people to connect with, and there are sales professionals. And even if you aren't, we are all selling from the time that we get up to getting our tea in time, getting the kid to do the homework, negotiating with colleagues. Sales business is on when we are on. So, Preeti, let's do a little check-in with people. Before we do that, do we have, is that what we got?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, back to you then. So, personality at play.
Absolutely. So on that note, on that very interesting story of Rahul himself, I know that each one of us probably have a unique way of looking at sales, or a unique missed opportunity that we have in ourselves or in our teams in the way we conduct ourselves in a sales process, right? So we're going to throw a quick poll at you. It's a 1-question poll, and it has 4 options. You can choose any one of those options and go ahead. You may want to choose all 4, or 2 out of 4, but I'll ask you to kind of choose one of them. You need to pick up a struggle that you face either yourself or with your team when it comes to the sales process. So there you are. I've launched the poll. I'm looking for you guys to quickly give me your responses. Can you guys see the poll? Okay, I've started getting responses. Perfect. Okay, I've got about 60% of you have given in your responses. I'll wait for the rest of you, so another 30 seconds. Very interesting spread of responses, Rahul and Rajiv. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, 10 more of you to go. So I'm just going to give this another 10 seconds. Okay, so I've got 80% votes in. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results with all of you. There you are. I hope you can see the results. So there, the results are out for you, Rahul. We had thrown in 4 different kinds of challenges that people may have with the way they look at their teams. And the most challenging, or the biggest challenge that they seem to experience is, my team is good at processes, but we miss out exploring new opportunities. That's a big one. 57% of the votes there. Another one which ends up being quite popular is, my team tends to be popular with clients, but they're unable to get results. And then we've got a few votes also on the other 2. My team tends to do episodic sales well, but unable to sustain relationships with clients. Or my team wants to try experiments, but their ideas are not practical. I've got about 14% votes there. So Rahul, there you have, a perspective of the kind of unique challenges that the participants here face with their sales teams.
And therefore, I think it underscores the first step, which is sales is not a cookie cutter, one-step solution. It is a lot more complex than that. And I think all of those things that we asked in the poll add to the quality, some part of being a successful salesperson. So that is the experience with the team. Let's have a quick look at the personality behind the psychology of sales. And let's get people to have a quick look at some of these questions we have. It'll be interesting to see. So, and we'll give it away. And you know, we are borrowing completely from the Lumina Spark psychology and the Lumina sales product. So there's no secrets here. However, to align your thinking, you'll notice we've got statements put in color clusters. On the top left is the green cluster, which talks about some sales pieces like emergent research, engage with empathy, reflecting understanding, co-creating collaborative flows, accommodating service. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the slide. You can read for yourself, but there is a reason why they've been put in a color box. And the other thing is, this is Lumina language, which was designed always for the user. So if it intuitively means something to you, that's exactly what this is. Don't try to, like, you know, second guess it. If it means something to you, 99%, it's a hit. Now we want to say, if you would be willing to go into the chat box and say, which is the box that you relate to the most? Is it red, yellow, blue, and green? So that way we get a sense of who's on the team, and you start to think of all of the qualities that make you the successful sales professional that you are. So if I can just invite you to jump onto the chat, maybe faster that way, and just start indicating which color is true for you. I can tell you right now, even when I was like bombing completely in my first attempt at sales, I was very popular with my colleagues and my boss, you know, but the numbers didn't quite add up.
Okay, so I'm getting a few responses. Rahul Naomi says she resonates with the red box the most. So everyone, if you could just put in the words or the qualities that are written down in every box, which box speaks out to you the most? Okay. A few blues, a few greens. For me, it's very clearly the red. Okay, Uday can in fact point out a quality that really speaks out to him from the yellow box. He says, think outside the box. A few people, Rahul, are mentioning two colors. So they're saying yellow the most and then green after that.
You know, that's the advantage of a free webinar. You can like claim as much as you want. But the truth of the matter is that it is also true. You know, there would be people who would find that I relate to most things in the yellow box, but there's a part of red that I'm not willing to let go. And that shows the beautifully complex portrait that we are as human beings. But yeah, actually the truth of the matter is most people would end up relating to two. You know, it's possible that most people are immediately able to say, okay, I'm willing to live with one choice, but a lot of people will say, I want to claim the second as well. Absolutely okay.
So we've got quite a few responses, Rahul, ranging from all colors, but I think if I were to just, and I can't say one color is more popular than the other. I'm seeing all four colors popping out.
Yeah. Is it me? I just see sort of, you know, kind of red punctuating it a lot. You know, it's kind of like a river run through it. And then of course I see a lot of blue and yellow as well.
And in the beginning, there were a few greens.
You saw a few greens, thank God for my tribe. Wonderful. I think we are getting a sense of who's in the room. Now, of course, you know, live session, we would have also used that as facilitators, which we are doing right now, to get a sense of who's in the room. But if you were our sales team, I would have already started to map in my head what kind of individual support each of these people need. Now, the question is, there is the competence of sale, but then there deeply also, and there's a 5,000 books written on the topic, psychology of sales. So our personality therefore informs which box we gravitate to. And we've got largely sales professionals. And, you know, we've all met a certain amount of degree to be called that, or success to be called that. So therefore, your personality is determining something that is at the heart of the way in which you approach sales. And of course, then there's acquired skill and experience. And for the person who sort of, enjoys a particular style, will end up focusing more on building strengths in that area. Let's have a quick look. Okay, so we're saying volume is low. I'm hearing Sachin say that. Is that true for everyone? Preeti, how's the voice coming?
You're loud and clear. Don't worry.
Okay, so maybe one odd one. Now we're going to pop up what we call mandala, a term that is taken by Carl Jung, the personality expert, and of course adapted by Lumina across all its frameworks to help you to understand that if your personality is feeding into your predisposition, what kind of style you might be leading with. Now remember, you claimed these aspects of personality when you chose them. And therefore, we are just giving you an alignment. Where your exact numbers, of course, will show up when you see your own Lumina sales report. But that aside, for right now, you should get a pretty good measure. And you would be, if you were able to choose your colors, start to claim that on the mandala of the 8 sales style, which one you are beginning to resonate with. And you start to see, and is anyone over here beginning to see very clearly a second style as well? So you begin to say, well, you know what? I am customers oriented. However, when I come back to the office, I'm all process oriented. Or I start my morning with my target orientation. But then when I go out there and start to get all visionary in the way, I sort of experiment, break the mold. And a lot of interesting things start to pop out. But what we are really interested in, if anybody is willing to sort of put the chat box to say, there are 2 opposite scores, opposite aspects that I relate to. Some people might actually find that they're both relationship focused and also target focused. And yes, it's possible, in the world, which is so fluid, and we live, where we are constantly adapting and beginning to become more aware about personality and its uniqueness, you might begin to see. So no longer about the color idea. I'll invite you to say, like what Naomi said, relationship and target focused at the same time. Naomi, would you be willing to just go off a mute and make a quick comment on how that plays out for you in real life?
Well, so I love numbers, right? And I love the whole concept of, I believe that everything at the end of the day, we are working for a number. So while that, I start off with that, but when I go and meet customers, it is more of what is a customer needing right now? What is it that they are looking for? And then how do I plug and play? And that's when I don't think of the numbers, but what it is that the customer would benefit, when I'm selling something. And then the number, then the number is a byproduct later of that sale and relationship. So that's always a conflict for me, which I have realized with this chart of yours that it comes across. So it's not something I realized, but now thinking about it, so it's always a conflict. Push the number or, push the relationship, and then the number comes in.
So Nimi, I'm glad you picked this one, this example, because this is like that delicate balance between result and relationship. And whenever we swing to either side, we start to feel the pain of what gets lost. Also, without being aware that we are built on both sides, so to speak, because oftentimes, many of you salespeople might have done also some essential psychometrics that are what we call type instruments, which are likely to suggest that you're one type. And look, it's natural. We are human beings are just living representation of the algorithm that gets fed to us. So we start to act in a certain way. I went through a lot with my dichotomy on extroverted, introverted. Introvert on inside, extrovert on the outside. Why I love your example, Naomi, because it's so true. It's so much the beating heart of the sales process. You need results, but you need people to sell to, and not just one time, but repeatedly. And every now and then, to a person who's strong on both ends of that polarity, And if you notice now closely, it's actually a sliding scale. Some people tend to be too much target focused. Some people tend to be too much relationship focused. And that's true for all 8 pieces of that aspect. They're essentially 4 seesaws. But it is also possible that you can have scores on both sides. And so the danger that happens is for many people who are strong on both, is that they start to become relationship focused when it's time to focus on the target. And as sales coaches, we often tell people about setting boundaries, setting expectations and consequences early enough, because this dynamic will happen between you and the client, but it will also happen with you and your team and your internal clients. So thank you for sharing that. Let me just quickly invite one more example of anybody else experiencing what we call in our language a paradox. I know I see Ketki talking about visionary and relationship, but I'm really looking for the opposite one. So customer focused, process oriented. Ketki, if you're ready, go right ahead.
Hey Rahul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Yes. First of all, very good to see you. And I think I'm very people oriented, as you know, since yellow and green are what I really relate to. And so therefore automatically for me it's customer first, right? Clients first. Having said that, I can be very in about details, process. If something needs to be done a certain way, and if it doesn't happen that way, so then I might end up actually, sometimes pushing back on the customer or questioning the customer's perspective questions. So, while I want to be customer oriented, I want to listen to them fully, but because I have a certain structure in my mind, it's possible, and as I'm seeing this, I'm just realizing that it's possible that I may end up tuning out what I don't want to hear from them.
Yes.
Because it doesn't fit into the process or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. And again, when we are not aware of this, it doesn't make us an anomaly in any which way. All it says that human beings, because they can have any degree of the personality ingredient, we are all uniquely crazy in our own way, uniquely special as you would. But the trouble is that when we are not aware of our personality style or our sales leadership style, we sometimes can make the accident on a couple of areas. One, we can flip-flop terribly, with the clients. We can sort of, be in the wrong side of the psychological spectrum where we need to be doing something else. The second thing is the personality dynamic of this behavior ends up spilling over to not just our team relationships, but also sometimes non-work relationships. So this gives us a deep insight. Now, tempted as I am, and in fact, I will act on that temptation to see if is anybody else got like a observation about yet another paradox, the third or the fourth paradox. If anyone's got...
Rahul, Gulshan's mentioned push and pull sale.
Yeah, there we go. Gulshan, would you be willing to talk about how you experience it?
Not right now.
Hi, Gulshan.
Not right now. Maybe
Absolutely. That's perfectly okay. The important part is that you were able to pull aside that, okay, I experienced it somewhat. So one question I want to say, and I learned this, and I think this will go down very well with sales professionals. When we were working with the Luminous Spark, which is like I said, which is the construct on which sales is built, the personality piece. I remember talking to some people early on, and I tried to explain some part of the language, and they said, I get it. It's simple enough English. And I think the fun part of Luminous Sales is the language that is used is easy for people to relate. So I'm very happy to see that even without your report, you're able to kind of gravitate towards what your style is. Although, of course, we all find that sometimes actual report can go a little bit against our intuition. That's where the learning comes and the shock happens, which is what happened to me. Now, let me summarize this. We have noticed from everybody that there are different pieces that make sales. So I started with the story, and let me complete my story. When I went through Lumina Sales, I was able to shake off that redundant, limiting self-belief that I can't sell. After all, I've negotiated personal relationships rather well. I've negotiated life in a lot of other areas quite well. So why not sales? And I understood all of us have scores in some part of the sales construct that can be used as a base to build on. As a sales leader, as a sales coach, I can start by recognizing and celebrating my team members what is strong, and then mentor them to build forward once I kind of have a sense of a understanding of who they are about. So let me try to conclude the slide by saying, yes, there is a dominant energy, and we see that in people. So as we move to the next slide, you'll begin to see that these colors fundamentally represent an energy, and we can pick this energy in people quite simply to guide them. So for the first step, as we sort of move forward, you can see that, red is representative of passion, and you self-drive, and that passion is that energy inside you. Then you've got an attraction to newness, novelty, and variety. And that's what creates the sales vision, how to do things differently, how to break the mold. Then next up, you got that sense of calmness, which is keeping the process together. And finally, the nurturing people build a pipeline of customers. You know, that salesperson who moves relationships where they go, who is always supported and trusted, a trusted advisor, in a sales partner. So this is where the energy comes from. So hopefully, Preeti, that was able to give enough information about how who we are pretty much determines not only how we sell, but how we lead our sales teams. And therefore, it also shows that all of us have a starting point to determine our sales success. Back to you, I think.
Thank you, Rahul. Very interesting. And it's very interesting to decode it using this simple but very insightful language of colors. It's just so easy to relate to it. It's also very non-judgmental in some way, the whole aspect of using colors. Also very interesting, the paradox that you spoke about, Rahul. I think the first time that I got my Lumina sales report, paradox, the getting pulled in two different directions, looking for balance, but yet feeling confusion at times. That was something that was a huge insight for me. And I have been kind of chasing that balance since then. So I do have my own paradoxes, and interesting to see some of the participants actually pick up those paradoxes easily enough by looking at the mandala. And that speaks of the power of, the language that gets used in Lumina. So thank you, Rahul. That was really insightful. But since I have a participant group primarily of, sales folks and sales leaders, we always like to map this understanding of personality onto something that we already know, the science of it, which is the sales cycle, right? We have been kind of trained on that. We have been using it successfully in our organizations. We may call it anything. Some people call it the sales funnel. Some organizations would call it the sales cycle. Some organizations would call it the sales process, whatever it is that we call it. The other question that I have in my mind, and I'm going to pass this on to Rajiv now, is Rajiv, in your vast experience working with sales leaders and being a salesperson yourself, a sales leader yourself for a large majority of your career, how do you think these personality factors could get mapped onto the sales cycle of an organization or the sales process of an organization?
Thank you, Preeti. I'll try to share my thoughts and experiences on that. And thank you, Rahul, for setting this up pretty interestingly. As I was looking at the slides again, keep reflecting on my own paradoxes and struggles that I still have on some of them. So although every customer interaction is unique, Preeti, but research has shown that sales process across industries and customer segments actually does follow a pretty logical sequential process. Now we have people here in our call today from different industries and different segments. And therefore, I'm going to request you to share the next slide where we talk of 6 stages. And I just want to get a common overall understanding whether these 6 stages are applicable to most people who are part of the call today or not. So I'll take a minute to read through them first and maybe also explain one line, what is the Lumina language around each of these 6 stages. So 6 stages of sales cycle start from research and acquire market knowledge, number 1. Number 2 is prospect and engage clients. Number 3 is understand needs. Number 4, recommend solutions. Number 5, get commitment. And number 6, support accounts and develop accounts. Now, all sales, step number 1, research and acquire market knowledge, we all know that understanding the current market trends is key that helps us to tailor our offers and create a sales strategy. Therefore, research and preparation is really, really vital. And important point is, in my own learning, what came across is that research, it has to be rigorous, but it still has to be flexible. So we don't miss out on any new information that is still coming to us. So that's step number one. As we go to step two, which is prospect and engage clients. Now, this is a crucial stage where the first interaction with the customer happens. It is therefore important that we are able to filter through a wide range of contacts we may have created to choose the most important potential clients and establish a strong presence with them. Stage three, understand needs. I think all people in the call would be pretty good at this and be aware of the importance of this. A constant interaction with clients is key to understanding not only their preferences, but also their communication styles and underlying needs. And this stage requires that we are good at asking insightful questions and also pretty good at being fully tuned and attentively listening to them. Stage four, recommend solutions. Your proposals, your documents these days play a very, very important role. Now, a proposal that you send to a client should be clear on what you're offering to the client. Stage five, get commitment. Once the client is in a buying mindset, it's important that we really cash on that commitment and get the deal signed. A lot of people do all the hard work till recommending solutions and they miss out on getting the final contract or final deal signed, which is really a very painful area because you've done all the hard work and then missing out on the last part. And it is therefore important that you understand, are flexible, and maintain your trust with your clients. I'll pick up stage six because at least in the first poll you ran, most people here indicated that one of the struggles they have is that the people are pretty good at servicing current clients or missing new opportunities. And I think maybe stage number six, which is to support accounts and develop accounts, could be a cue as they go back and look at their own sales teams. Because this is the area where we say that maintaining and enhancing relationship with client is critical. You sell once, but with same client, you get repeat orders, you get referrals, and this is a very, very important area. So let me just take a small pause, and if people can indicate in the chat, yes, if the 6 stages indicated here are broadly also applicable to their industry or the kind of sales they are involved in. Can you relate to these 6 stages? Okay, I do get some yeses very quickly, which means they pretty much can map all 6 stages to their sales cycle.
Yes, quite a lot of yeses on the chat screen, Rajiv.
Fair enough, which is good to hear that the common language that you're using, that we are trying to use across industries, is applicable to people working there. So let me ask them, and I'm sure you will lead them on to the next poll, but I'm asking people, when you look at these 6 stages and you reflect back, which is one area out of these 6 that is your topmost strength today, and which is one area that you believe is an area of small opportunity for improvement? And Preeti, you want to take that on a poll?
Yes, so let me do that on a poll, Rajiv. So I'm going to throw at you 2 questions now. And the first question is going to be about identifying in your organization or in yourself the biggest strengths. So there you go. The poll should be on your screen now. What is my team very good at? And you can choose the one area out of these 6 stages that you think is a strength. Okay, I've got about 20 responses as we speak. I'm looking for the others also to put in your responses. Okay, guys, last 10 seconds. So if you could quickly put in your thoughts. And then I'm going to follow this up with the next question around which one you think is the biggest missed opportunity in your team.
And some of them, and that question may remember the challenge one you asked right in the beginning, Preeti. Let's see if there is consistency on that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share results with all of you. So very interestingly, Rajiv, and this has come to us several times in the past with different clients, understanding client needs and then recommending a solution looks like those are the two big strengths for their team.
Stage 3 and 4.
Stage 3 and 4, and also stage 2.
Fair enough.
And that maps well with what you mentioned earlier. Support and developing accounts does not come up as a key strength for a lot of teams. But let me quickly do the next poll, which is around what is it that my team currently lacks in? What is it that is a gap area for my team? So another poll launched. Please give me your responses. You now have to pick up one stage in the sales cycle which you think your team is lacking in, or you yourself are lacking in, if you do active client interaction.
And I think Naved has made a very relevant comment in the chat that 3 and 4 stages are connected and interrelated. Actually, all 6 are interrelated,
Yes.
but 3 and 4 maybe more so.
Okay. I've got about 30 responses. I'll give this another 15 seconds. Naveed, you should be able to see the poll because I'm getting responses on it. I've already got like about 40 responses. Maybe if you could, if you're on a phone, maybe you need to move the screen. Okay, last 5 seconds and I'll close the poll. All right, so I'm going to end the poll now and share the results with you. And it kind of maps very well with the previous responses that we got, Rajiv. So the biggest gap appears to be stage 1, which is researching and acquiring market knowledge, and also to some extent getting commitment, which is stage 5, and supporting and developing accounts. So seems like this team is good, or the teams that they work with are good at prospecting with clients, engaging with them, understanding their needs, and then going ahead and proposing a solution, sending in a proposal, but then pushing it to the end and getting a commitment and ensuring that they are then continuously nurturing that relationship. That's where they seem to, they kind of see a gap.
And I'm tempted to make a predictive comment, even not working or knowing most people on the call today. I think stage 1, which comes up as the big need area, Preeti, in all of our experiences, we've also seen that a lot of people like us in sales, when we become experienced, we tend to underplay the importance of research. We get into the mindset of, I already know everything.
Yeah.
And that's a huge gap in a lot of teams, and sales leaders struggle because, you know, when you talk to your salespeople, they are experienced, but they are not really doing the basic rigor that is required for that step. So these 6 stages, Preeti and folks, to come back, are what we call as the science part of the sales. What Rahul initially started with and spoke about personality was, to me, what we can call as the art of the sales. For consistent magic to happen, art and science both need to dance in tango. You can't have one and be hoping to become a super salesperson. You need to get both of them in right combination. And that's where, in my own personal experience, Lumina played an important part. Now, what happened in Lumina is that we have created a unique sales model. And if Preeti, you could go to the next stage, maybe it'll help me. Yes. So this looks like a slightly cluttered slide. So I will give a small pause, and all of you may need to come closer to your screen to read some of the qualities. So in Lumina, what we have done is We picked up 24 qualities from your personality and mapped them across 6 stages of sales cycle. Each of the 6 stages has 4 sales qualities from your personality mapped to it. Like for research and acquire market knowledge, you have things like think outside the box, be competitor savvy, gather data, emergent research, etc. Now, I'm going to definitely take a small pause here and I want people to reflect because this can be quite an insightful slide for many of us. You chose a color to begin with, you chose a few qualities to begin with. You also then mapped which area you are strong at. Are you seeing some linkages and are you seeing some patterns emerging? Can I also request if you go into chat and pick up one quality that you are most strong at and put that in the chat. Out of the 24, which of the personality qualities you are most strong at? Let me see what we are getting in chat. Is the question clear to everyone? Of the 24 qualities, you have to pick one that you believe you are currently strongest at.
So the 24 qualities are written around the sales cycle. They are, you know, in the outside of the circle, you see these 24 qualities. You had also seen it in the beginning when we started the session, when Rahul had asked you to pick up, you know, one color box. Okay, I can see a few.
Okay. Drive to deliver, Naomi, Ketki, stimulating ideas. That's from the yellow she mentioned to begin with. Naved, mix of everything. Wow. So Naved, what's rank 1 for you? But all of us are mix of everything. But I'm asking you to choose rank 1. And Gulshan, detailed proposal. Vivek, drive to deliver. Someone who is Galaxy A50 accommodating service. Summer, purposeful argumentation. And knowing Summer, I'm trying to create a picture of that. Akshat, detailed proposal. Girish, drive to deliver. Nitin, drive to deliver. Great, but it's easy for all of us to pick and choose at least 1 or 2 out of these 24 that we believe we are very good at. And I want to request someone who has not spoken till now, if you could come off mute and share with us, how has this strength helped you in a sales success in recent past? I'm going to take at least 1 or 2 people, but be brief, be precise, 10 to 15 seconds maybe, to share with us how has this strength helped you in recent past? Who is coming up? I see Sudipta going off mute. Sudipta, you want to come up?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to everyone.
Yes, Sudipta.
Actually, in recent past, I was following one offer with a client where this detailed proposal has helped me a lot. Detailed proposal, what I meant is that to know and understanding the customer requirement in detail. What does it mean? That if we can have a good dialogue with the customer and regular follow-up at the pre-bid stage, then at least we can understand and make out what is the basic need of the customer, and additionally what are the other fancies he is looking for, which can help us to be ahead of our competitor. So that's what has helped me a lot, and we could finally win the order with the detailed analysis of the requirement and followed by a detailed proposal which has been made and which kept us ahead of our competitor. That is what is my experience recently.
So Dipta, thank you for sharing that. Samar, I'm tempted to get you also here because you've claimed purposeful argumentation. And some people can take that in a slightly strong context, but how has that helped you?
Yeah, Rajiv, as you know, we drive, certain business and in the industry that we are in, with the times changing as well now. In our sphere of business, and that is where we kind of market, we target large markets. What I mean to say here is sales definitely is not a rocket science, right? And to keep it very simple that way is by keeping a purposeful, prospecting. So while we go and meet a client, the client also should have a reason to change, right? And that is where the purpose of knowing and understanding the kind of a client that we are prospecting should be very clear, so that there is an interest both ends, and the kind of a time and effort that you put in to do so should make sense, right, for the client as well. So either you create a kind of a purpose for them when you go and meet them, or the client already has something missing in them, which we know that we will be able to fulfill that. So that's the reason why we say, if we are prospecting a list and the list is quite substantial with us, automatically the sale starts to fill in. So that's the reason why I have gone for purposeful augmentation.
Thank you for sharing that, Samar. And happy to see people there. Chatura says voice of reason, Ketri says stimulating ideas.
Hello.
Also has, yes.
Yeah, this is Harit this side. Actually,
yes,
we are working for steel industries. So main emphasis to our type of industry, first we have to listen to our customer thoroughly.
Okay.
That, what type of solution the customer want.
Okay.
And we should emphasis to solve their problems. Also, we educate the customer, client, to the market, what is coming the market, what is new, what is other customer is following. So we just first listen, and then we have to give our proposals.
Fair enough. Now, which quality you claim? Maybe I'm missing that on the screen.
Actually, I joined late, so I'm not seeing that quality.
Fair enough. If you see the screen right now, there are 24 qualities on the outer periphery. Now, as you choose that, I'm also inviting all the participants, think of the teams. Most of you are sales leaders. When you look at your teams, are you trying to now find a pattern? Which are the qualities my team is good at? And therefore, certain stages of the sales cycle we do well. Like if you are doing stage 2, 3, and 4 relatively well, I'm going by the poll results, Preeti, and we are relatively weak on stage 1 and 6, then are we seeing a pattern emerging in the personality qualities also? And imagine if you had a scientific understanding and analysis of these qualities of your team, how they could help you to create an individual development plan and also get more business along with us build healthy relationships with your clients. So this is where I think our personality, which is the art part, and the 6 stages, which is the science part, tend to become a great combination if we understand both of them. But it doesn't end here, Preeti, interestingly, because all these things that we do well, we start doing subconsciously. And even without realizing, we have a tendency to just do some of those things because they become, as we say, second nature to us. Like if someone is good at stimulating ideas, they just in any conversation with family, friends also like to generate ideas. If someone is into detailed proposal, then even if they have to speak with someone, in their mind, they need to get step 1, 2, 3, 4 all mapped out before they speak. Now, one of the important questions I'm asking people is it possible that sometimes we use a strength so much that the strength itself can become a limitation for us? So a strength which is mostly helping us, when overused, can that itself become a limiting factor in our success? If you want to put on chat, yes, no, something. It's a close-ended question. All of us in sales know questioning techniques very well. Okay, Virendra says yes. Uday says yes. Tribhuvan says yes. Okay, I'm getting all yeses, which is good to see. Then another important question is, how do you identify when you are crossing that line? Do we even realize what's my tipping point? So if I am good at understanding needs or discerning assessment, in my case, actually, if I was to take my own example, do I realize where it is becoming too much of that? And mostly maybe we don't. And Tribhuvan, right, overdose of anything is bad. But question is, do you recognize when it is overdone? Because for us, there is always a justification that we do that. So in Lumina, there is an important word we get, which is called overextension. Now, overextension is when a quality is overused, what it can lead to. And mostly if that happens, it can be a negative impact. Now for the 24 effective qualities that the current slide is showing you, in Lumina, we also have 24 overextensions. And Preeti, if I request you to go to the next slide, now you see there words which some of us may not like reading about our own self. These are the 24 overextensions. So gather data can become analysis paralysis. Voice of reason, which is an effective quality, can now become critical. Detailed proposal, which is very important, can become lost in the detail. Let me get some other people involved. So Chatura, you had voice of reason as effective quality, and if we overextend, it becomes critical. We've never met, you've not taken Lumina, so it is a hypothetical question, but I want to get you involved. Has it happened? Have you received a feedback where people perceive you to be critical? Does that effective quality get overextended in you? Is Chatura able to hear me? Or Ketki was on a lot of ideas, and is that becoming sometimes creative overload, Ketki? Has that happened with you? Ketki?
Yeah, I actually just typed in the chat box.
Oh, you wrote in the chat box. Sorry,
I completely relate with this. I actually get just overexcited about stimulating ideas, and sometimes I'm afraid about overload. That's a good term to use. Actually, I've never used that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good term to use.
And if I was to push you slightly, a client can feel at the end of that discussion, which is very stimulating for you, slightly lost or confused. Why are so many new ideas coming now when we have already agreed on certain things?
Honestly, I don't know about that. What I have realized is that because there's ideas that are being thrown up, bringing them back together. So there's a whole lot of divergence happening, but converging to create, one final approach to say, okay, here is what we will go with. That sometimes I feel could get compromised.
Fair enough. So just think about it, because if you acknowledge this happens, then it may have certain consequences.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to get one more person involved, Vivek, who the effective quality was co-creating. So Vivek, you are on call. The overextension can lead to people pleasing. So co-creating is collaboration, very powerful. And people pleasing is giving in maybe too much, agreeing to all their demands. Has that happened with you, Vivek? Is there any reflexive comment you have?
Yes, it can come across. I've heard one of my peers saying this, that, why you're trying to please the stakeholder. Okay. But that's not the intention, right? The intention is to work out a solution that works best for both the parties. If they're not happy with what we want, what I'd like to do is include them in the decision making and say, okay, then you tell us what works for you. Is it a mix of what you and I want, or is it what you have? Because ultimately what we propose should work with the client, and keeping in mind that that is the best solution. So yes, I do agree, it can come across as people pleasing.
Absolutely. And that's where, as a company in our own system, what is more appreciated? Where is that boundary line where collaboration can be seen as people pleasing? That's very interesting and insightful for us. Like in my own case, when I first went through this report a couple of years ago, then one of my effective qualities is discerning assessment, which is in understanding needs. And when overextended, it becomes aloof. And I can easily relate to that. And it was one of the biggest insights that I'm trying to slowly overcome, that the client should not get a feeling that I have totally lost interest, not going to so much of understanding needs, talking to them, that they believe I'm sometimes becoming too far away from the main content that we agreed to discuss. There's one last one I'll pick up, because most of you are sales leaders. Now, convincing is an effective quality. Convincing is here. And a lot of us are very logically convincing others. When overextended, it can appear as pressuring. And many sales leaders who believe they are very logical, the team can have a perception that the boss is pressuring us. So think about it. And now let's try to see what I have shared with you. So we have 6 stages of sales cycle, which is the science part of it. We map it to the 24 qualities in our personality. So we get to know what are our strengths and what are some big areas of improvement. This can be at an individual level. This can be at a team level. And we don't stop there. We also get to realize, is there a small tendency where on some of these I can do too much and it can become a negative for me rather than a strength? I hope that's creating some interest in the people. The last slide, Preeti, I want to still sum up and hand it back to you if you can bring that up, which we may not discuss right now, but I want to leave them with that, is Lumina also helps you to map the 6 stages of sales cycle with the buying process. So if you see the inner ring now, the inner ring has 6 stages of the buyer cycle. And the yellow sticky pads are the outcomes we need to have at each of these 6 stages. So it's a very, very interesting merge of art and science. You look at your personality, you look at the 6 stages of sales cycle, you look at the buyer process, and then you decide and choose what's the best approach you want to have for someone. And believe me, if we can merge art and science, our win rate will increase significantly, our frustrations will go down, and we'll also build healthy relationships with our customers. So I don't know if that a long answer to a short question you asked me, Preeti. I can go on and on, but I'm looking at the clock and therefore I'll hand it back to you. But if someone has a question, please put it in the chat. I'll be happy to take that on, or I'll be happy to take that on. So Mahesh says he wants to add something to the last slide. Mahesh, please come up. Let's give him a chance. The last slide, this one or this one? Check with that.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one.
Go ahead, Mahesh.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so it's a little funny, but I'm sure most of the sales guys will have gone through this, wherein you end up in the pursuit of getting commitment and the target pressures of various stages. You do force close or
Okay.
the close, and then you're in a situation where you're trying to live with it and goes back to your ideation stage and understand the need and try and fit in. Because your force close solution, it doesn't work because you've done that under pressure.
Correct.
And then you're coming the full cycle back and trying to understand the need to understand how do I now make this work.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many of you have felt so, but I thought it's something that most of us would have gone through in our sales.
I am remembering my sales days. All of us would have gone through multiple times. You don't want to do a force close, but your boss and company only thinks in the last week you have to do force close. So there is no option left.
Absolutely. So then you actually force close a solution, and then you go back to the first stage of trying to fit that in.
Absolutely. But I think that's where somewhere we have to become resilient and start creating a balance between short term and long term. I can't tell you don't force close because this month is important. But if that force close is creating a lot of negatives and hurting our long term with the customer, then somewhere the middle management or the sales manager has to really take a strong viewpoint and help the team to slowly shift the balance by doing the process. But I can fully relate to it. Even today, every month numbers are as important as last month. You can't say this month is less important. So
yeah.
That's the fun of sales. Thank you for bringing that up, Mahesh. Thank you. Preeti, back to you.
All right. So thank you, Mahesh. That was a very interesting insight. And I'm sure all of us have our own insights about our teams, looking at what Rajiv just shared and the wealth of information that, Lumina kind of throws up through the report that it generates. So at this stage, we're all conjecturing, we're all, looking at these 24 qualities, making educated guesses. But, when it all comes together in the form of a 40-page report, which has information about our personality preferences, our color preferences, mapped to the mandala, then also mapped to the 6 stages, then the overextensions, I think magic really happens. And I'm sure Rahul and Rajiv, because we've been on projects together, you'll vouch for that. In fact, going back to the client that I started this entire call with, I told you we got a business problem. They said that, you know, we've got well laid out processes. We've got a beautiful sales cycle. It has been working for us for a long time, but somewhere we don't know why our people just are not pushing the pedal. They're unable to accelerate. So can you help us? And it seems to be unique to every individual. It's not that there isn't a common skill gap that I can point out and say that this is where, you know, the entire team is struggling. So what we did was we went ahead and generated the Lumina sales report for the sales team for that organization. And as we did the feedback, there was a wealth of information and a wealth of insights that came out for each individual uniquely, which means that just like Mahesh said, or just like, you know, Kate Key said, or a couple of others shared with us, I know I'm good at a certain thing, but I don't know when it ends up becoming overused. That was a huge blind spot for a lot of us. It was a huge blind spot for me when I got my sales report. It was a huge blind spot for all of us with years of experience behind us. And, you know, that understanding, that, you know, awareness led to the creation of very, very solid action learning projects that were very personalized for each person. So I remember there was a particular person who had a gap in gathering data. Yeah. And he said that this is not something that I'm good at. And therefore, but I do realize now in the new reality where opportunities are coming up, you know, beautifully in different industries, consumer preferences are changing. I need to regather data. I can't rely on data that was made available to me a year back. And so I want to work on that. And that got created into an action learning project, which was related to business metrics. So for him, gathering data meant that I have to improve my sales pipeline from X to Y. Similarly, for another person, you know, the what came across was that he overdoes the detailed proposal bit. So at times, you know, the proposal kind of gets lost in the detail. So for him, the action learning project really was to rework the proposal format, to make sure that the proposal now has just enough detail to entice the client and to get the client towards commitment, but the client doesn't get lost in the data either. And, you know, and what he's tracking really is time to closure. Yeah, so that's what gets tracked. You know, my client acquisition time was 3 months. Am I able to shrink that to 2.5 months? That's the kind of powerful, you know, action planning that can happen if you have this kind of data in your hands at an individual level, not just for yourself, but also for each of your sales teams. So, you know, these projects that we've done with large clients as well as small clients, we worked with smaller organizations, we worked with family businesses, we worked with an NGO, we worked with a health tech organization, across organizations, irrespective of size, irrespective of the industry. The insight that comes out, especially when we look at the 4 colors, the 24 qualities and the overextensions, I think I cannot tell you how wonderful it is for us as coaches also to, you know, have those conversations with people. Yeah. So the big question therefore is, you know, at this stage in the discussion is, how is it that I can apply it into my organization? So various ways, actually. Number one, you know, at an individual level, we can apply it to our own selves as sales leaders to become more aware of how my personality influences sales outcomes. So just like the reflection that you all were doing while we were on this call, to really understand, okay, what are my preferences? What are the qualities that I claim? What are the qualities that I may have a tendency to overextend? That's number one. And therefore, how is it that I can become more effective in my dealing with clients to make sure that outcomes get met for myself and for my client as well? Also, a lot of you are sales leaders. A lot of you have teams working under you. So one of the key things that we end up doing is beyond the individual reports, we also end up mapping team strengths and underlying preferences, which means on the same chart, instead of having the mapping for only one person, we would end up mapping, let's say, all 10 people in your sales team or all 6 people in your sales team, and then clearly bringing out to you as a sales leader, which are the stages where your teams are really, really performing well, which are the stages where we see a gap, and in what kind of personality aspects does your team have a lot of strengths, and what kind of personality aspects may your team have a little bit of a gap, Do you have a diverse team, or do you have a team of people who are pretty much like each other, et cetera, et cetera? That's a very interesting mapping that we do. And very importantly, therefore, we end up creating a common language that you all can use with your team members for coaching and mentoring them. Yeah, because you know, in the Lumina context, when we say discerning assessment, it means a certain thing. And if we've done the same assessment or the same report generated for the entire sales team, then everyone knows what discerning assessment means. And when I'm talking about that particular quality, how is it that I can work on it? How is it that I can, you know, leverage that quality better? So we've used it in different ways in different organizations. And each time, I must tell you, you know, we have had wonderful results coming out of it. So those are a few sample pages from the report. Like I told you, it's a 40-page report. And what we are going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and launch a sales leadership program. And this particular program is open to anyone to, you know, kind of enroll for, which means if an organization only has, you know, 1 or 2 people who would be interested in the program, you can either nominate yourself or you can get your organization to nominate you. And there are huge takeaways from this program. Number one, a personal 40-page report highlighting your sales persona, and it also gets mapped onto the sales cycle. We also in the sales leadership program extend this and allow you to map your clients as well using the Lumina colors. So, you know, there are yellow clients, there are red clients, there are yellow-red clients, there are green clients, blue clients. How is it that I can speed read my clients? How is it that I can therefore flex my style and work more effectively with these clients? We'll also be mapping your team to highlight key strengths and opportunities, like I said. And the sales leadership program gives you an opportunity for one-on-one coaching with one of the Lumina sales coaches, which could be, you know, Rajiv or Rahul or I or whoever, you know, whoever gets assigned to you. So it's a wonderful program that we are launching, you know, very, very quickly. And as part of this particular webinar, which is really a, you know, a showcase webinar or an interest generation webinar, we will be giving a link out to you, and you all can express your interest in whether that is of interest to you. Yeah. Also, quickly, in the next 5 minutes, there are other offerings that Lumina has beyond sales leader, the sales offering that we have. And given that we have a diverse group of participants here, we thought we'll quickly tell you about the other offerings that we have. So in all, there are 5 different offerings that have been brought to India. Of course, the biggest one is Lumina Spark, which is the personality tool, which reveals your whole personality. It reveals your hidden potential, any underlying qualities that you have, which you're not using in your everyday behavior. Also, a lot of discussion around your behavior under pressure. There's also, Lumina Spark also has an app-based engagement. So, you know, every time that every person who ends up taking the Lumina assessment ends up getting an app in their phone, and that particular app you can access anytime. You can, if there are 5 people in the team who have all taken the Lumina Spark assessment, all of them can actually map each other's reports, figure out what are the potential areas of, you know, synergy in our teams, what are the potential areas of conflict in our teams, etc. So that's a beautiful product that we have, the first one to have come to the India market. Lumina Emotion is a good one too. In fact, it's probably one of the best emotional intelligence you know, tools that I've seen so far in my career, at least. Gives you a lot of insights on your adaptability, your emotional adaptability, your emotional resilience. Where is it? And without typing people, without saying that there is a particular definition of emotional intelligence, you know, it kind of releases you from that bond and just gives you a lot of insights into who you are, you know, and how those emotions play out in your real life. Lumina Leader is a leadership tool that could also be of interest to a lot of you. It tells us about our natural leadership styles and the need for flexibility. And finally, Lumina Select is basically a selection tool that can help you assess candidates for fitment before you hire them, so that you can avoid costly hiring mistakes. You can even uncover potential of people who you're looking to promote inside the organization. So a bouquet of offerings that we have there from Lumina. And what I'm going to do now is we are very nicely timed. We've got another 10-15 minutes left with us. So I'm going to quickly put a link on the chat screen. Yeah, and you guys can give us feedback. You guys can express your interest for especially the sales leadership program through this link. But also, this is the time when you can ask us a lot of questions about the tool itself, about the models that we are following, about any questions that you may have related to, you know, Lumina or any of its offerings. So question time, we're taking questions. Also the time when we would be looking for feedback from all of you on the link that I just shared on the chat screen. So I hope you all have the link on the chat screen.
Preeti, I think it might have gone. Yeah, now it's gone.
Great. So question time, we're all ears now.
Preeti, I personally am also keen to hear, because I know there's a lot of sales leaders, you know, when they acquire a team, start to do a lot of serious mentoring and even graduate to coaching work.
Hi, this is Pratik here. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just a question. We are in the process of building up our sales team, and we are a startup, and we're looking at starting from the scratch, basically. So that's how I'm looking at it. Would like to have some insights in terms of getting the team to kickstart things from the beginning.
Rajiv, do you want to take that based on the experience with the other client that we worked with?
Yes, I think, Pratik,
yeah.
Let me first understand the question. How can some of the things we have discussed today help you in setting up the entire sales team and the structure?
Since currently we have a lot of ideas, being a startup, the ideas keep changing with the current market scenario and the COVID situation. There is no one constant idea that we can stick to. So that's again a challenge that the team is facing continuously because most of our work had to be done on field. It's not something that can be done remotely. So that relationship building and dealing with people on field who are not tech savvy, basically for our sales solutions or for the product that we have in the market, becomes a bit of a challenge for our sales team.
Fair enough. So in terms of tools, you know, we have Select, which can help you to find out right people in line with your culture and the skills and competencies required. We then have Sales as a tool, which can help you to identify the real development needs and create internal, external programs which help you to build it up. Fundamentally, even if you don't use tools, I think as a startup, you should be getting your people trained to follow all the 6 stages that we refer to, stage 1 to 6, and ensure that whatever are strength areas, people are using them to their advantage, and what are some gaps today, you as a company are providing some inputs to them to ensure that those gaps, you will need all 6 stages covered to really ramp up very quickly and address that. That will be my kind of a very short answer to that.
Thanks.
But Pratik, we'll be happy to get on a longer chat with you. So
to understand the needs first and then maybe.
Totally, Preeti and Rajiv, we'll do that.
Okay, there was Girish who said yes. So Girish, yes was that you had a question or it was a yes to general yes? I saw a chat yes, and then there is Vivek who's put a question on, which Rahul possibly if you can answer or you've answered in the chat.
I'll be happy to answer that one. I mean, I really like the way, I mean, what Vivek has asked is critical.
Okay.
You see, in the early stages, sales is a lot about management and execution. But as we know from the EQ studies and from all leadership profiling, that as people start to migrate to becoming and moving from sales management to sales leadership, it is their ability to motivate people, their ability to create followership without realizing, without depending on positional power, that sets them apart. And it's even more true for sales, I think. Sales gets very vilified very easily. So I think the Lumina sales is particularly powerful to make a sales leader even more authentic, because first of all, it mirrors the sales leader's own data. it helps them to understand how they may be biased. Many times, a bias of a sales leader makes them overlook a lot of potential talent because they go with preference, the business is dynamic, sales is under so much pressure all the time. You just keep going easy with what's favorite. Also, you start to mentor people in your limited biased lens. When you have data on yourself and on your team, you're actually able to strategically mentor everybody, not only for their quality of their style, but also what is relevant for the team's need. That this is your role. Your job is to do the research, or your job is to get closures. So you can be very targeted on the stage also. So I think for sales leaders, I'm biased to think that probably becomes even more effective. If you're leading a team, it just gives you the blueprint. It gives you an absolute blueprint to lead your team. That's my view.
And to add to what Rahul said, Vivek, the Select tool can get used for any kind of hiring, not just sales teams. Any role in an organization, Select is a good tool because what it does, it gives you a fitment based on a certain group of competencies. Yeah, and it also gives you an interview guide to say that if you are looking to hire someone and you're looking to interview that person, you'll have specific questions that could give you better insights into the potential that that person has, or some allowable probably limitations that he or she has. More questions around the sales tool, around the leadership program? Happy to answer those. Also, what is it that you would like to have in a sales leadership program? That's a question that we'd like you all to answer. If we were to ask you, what would an ideal sales leadership program in the current dynamic look like? What would it be?
Preeti, in fact, that was a question that I was wanting to ask. The sales leadership program, is it going to be one session? Is it going to be a set of interventions? What is the broad idea that you guys have in mind?
Rahul, do you want me to take that?
Yeah, give it a shot. We've talked about it. A little bit is on the blueprint. We are happy to share with these participants. Yeah.
Yes. So like Rahul said, Uday, this is an evolving concept. We are looking to design a series of interventions which would have group sessions as well as individual coaching sessions supported by the Lumina sales tool. But if we feel that it requires some amount of skill building also, on the functional side, we're happy to do that as well. We would ideally like to work with, a similar group of participants, but I understand that in an open program, we might have a diverse group. So the mix of group sessions and individual sessions really depends on the diversity of the group that we have. And, it will be well supported with application-based projects or action learning projects, which will allow the person to kind of really experiment with their new learnings, apply them, see success, see what is it that they need to keep repeating, what is it that they need to stop doing. So it's going to be a mix of group sessions, coaching sessions supported by Lumina Sales, as well as action learning projects. At least that's what we have in our mind right now. But like I said, it's an evolving concept.
If I can bounce an idea with Uday, because that's a very interesting part. So Uday, another idea we are still experimenting or debating internally is that there could be some virtual sessions which are common for everyone. And then maybe some sessions which are exclusive for people who are in certain roles. Like if you're a sales leader and sales coaching or team development is an important component, then one part of the program, a separate session only addresses that. And someone who's a salesperson may not or may choose not to attend that part if that's not relevant to them. So, but right now we are bouncing ideas. And when we have the final blueprint, obviously I'm sure Rahul and team will announce it.
Super, thank you.
Yeah, the intent, of course, look, Lumina Sales is the next generation tool, but it's new in the market. We are looking at all ways to build, a community of people who are users, who are kind of ambassadors. So, and as you probably have seen our style in any case, it's very, very inclusive. So we are just trying to balance everything: instruction, participation, balance, and also some level of flexibility that, like what Rajiv said, that you can actually have your some parts of it cater to your specific needs. So, but the program will get announced fairly soon. We're also going to be rolling out open webinars for the other products. So I'm going to put a text over there. You know, if you need to know more about any other tools, you want to know a little bit more about how to start using the Lumina Select as a practitioner, all of that, direct your questions either to Rajiv and Preeti if you know them directly, or Neha to just traffic manage it.
Thank you. I think, Preeti, we're pretty much towards the end.
On the clock, yes.
Yeah. So thank you all of you for joining in. Thank you. I hope some of you have gone ahead and filled the link, the SurveyMonkey link that I shared. You'll also receive it through email. You'll receive a copy of a sample report, of a sample Lumina sales report. You'll also be receiving the recording of this session and a brochure that will tell you more about all Lumina offerings. So that's what you can expect in your inboxes after the session is over. Happy to get more questions from you. You can either follow the LinkedIn page of Lumina Learning and keep dropping your questions there, or you could write to us directly through email. Happy to answer all of them. Thank you so much for making time on a Saturday morning, all of you. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Rajiv, for your time.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, everyone. It's been insightful. It's also been good to meet some people I know here back again virtually. So thank you, everyone, and also meet some new people. Make connection. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Yes, Samar, you stayed till the end. You get full marks for that. I'll tell your boss also.
Thank you, everyone. Nice catching up. Have a great weekend.
Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.